Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Frank. In this episode, we speak to Katherine of Tai Chi and the Chilterns, who, rather unsurprisingly, as it says on the tin, runs the Tai Chi sessions here at the Bagnall Project. So, as our regular listeners will know, whenever we have a new guest on, we like to get to know them a little bit better by jumping straight in with what we like to call the Let's Be Frank Q&A. Now, I'm pleased to say that I'm joined this week not only by Katherine, but by Zoe, who is our social prescribing project worker. So we'll be alternating the questions that we ask Katherine. So without further ado, Katherine, are you ready to roll?
Probably not, but let's go anyway.
So, favourite sandwich?
At the moment, I'm feeling an Italian vibe. So mozzarella, sun-dried tomato, a bit of basil, a bit of olive oil, you know. Yeah.
And sticking with the Italian theme, favourite pizza?
Yeah, well, I'm really into making my own pizza at the moment. Sourdough starter, use that. So it's kind of put everything on it, though. So there's prawns, there's garlic, chilli, there's... lots of sort of antipasti vegetables, a bit of sprinkling of olive oil and herbs and, nice sort of homemade tomato sauce as the base and nice thin crust. Whack it in 10 minutes and, you're done. And it's fabulous with some salad.
What one thing do you own that you should probably throw out?
In a previous life, I was a trainer for a beauty brand, a sort of luxury beauty brand. So... when you're doing that, you acquire a lot of product for free, which was fabulous at the time. It's an old life. It's just sort of, it's in the past. But there's probably products lurking around that are well past this. So I take that somewhere. But, when you think, oh, but that's so luxurious and it was so expensive if I bought it. Like, I can't bring myself to let it go. But, yeah, so...
Know that feeling. Brilliant. Tea or coffee?
Yes, now then.
I can see you've got a flask in front of you, but I can't quite waft from here.
First thing in the morning is definitely fresh coffee. That's my go-to. But rest of the day, tea.
And is it a builder's tea? Is it a green tea?
I do like my teas. I've got a lot of various sort of Japanese, Chinese teas, green teas, black teas, Sri Lankan teas, and I've got friends in places, so I get stuff sent to me from abroad, so I'm always trying out new teas. So I've got with me I think this is jasmine tea, but bit of a tea snob. I like a loose tea,
there's something to be said for it.
Yeah, I like to drink the green tea after a meal. I think that can help with my digestion, so yeah.
Crisps or cake?
That is hard. That is a really hard one. Interestingly, I really enjoy baking for other people. So if it's somebody's birthday, I like to bake them a cake. So it was Dad's birthday last month. He's a jazz musician. So I love to kind of like, right, let's have a go at the icing, creating model things on the top. So we did a little banjo, did a little, sort of music on a sheet, you know what I mean? Sort of like miniature stuff out of sort of sugar paste and all that. So, but I do love a packet, that would probably be a weakness more, would be a packet of crisps. And, like a naughty treat would probably be nice movie, stay in, packet of salt and vinegar crisps with a Mars bar at the same time.
Okay, controversial question. Cats or dogs?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I don't own any pets, but I think cats can own people.
I would agree with that.
It pretty much, like, wherever I've lived, there's always been somebody's cat that just kind of, like, befriends me. So currently, my neighbour, her cat, Mr. Fish, he became more apparent during the lockdowns because we were all at home. I was doing my Tai Chi videos sort of for YouTube, like daily in the garden, and we sort of got big communal gardens, and he would just sort of want to come in and be part of it, and he'd be messing around with the camera stand and, and then doing my Zoom stuff as well online at home. He'd want to come in and sort of weave around your legs while you're doing your Tai Chi. So he sort of became a bit of a personality. And a lot of people would be like, where's Mr. Fish today? We're missing, they were more interested in him than the Tai Chi. But anyway, I love dogs. I'm actually in the Chinese zodiac a dog, the loyalty of a dog, and the sort of just the sort of trusting friendliness of a dog, whereas your cats are just kind of like, I do what I want.
Be quite aloof, can't they?
Yeah. So I don't know.
Have you ever asked someone for an autograph?
The one that I sort of, for some reason, remember was Les Dawson.
Very nice.
Of all people. Yeah, we were at an event at Castle Donington racetrack because my parents live in Castle Donington. And my cousin at the time, he was like a teenager. Goodyear were doing like this Young Driver of the Year award. So I think he came second or something. But, they do all the obstacle course and stuff. So we went to support and there was all sorts going on. I think Swap Shop was there or something like kids' TV thing was there. And me and my cousins were there. And Les Dawson was there for whatever reason, I don't know. But I went up to him with an autograph book and asked for his autograph. And I just remember he said, "Are you a bumblebee?" And I don't know why, to this day, why he said, "Are you a bumblebee?" I was like, "No, I just want your autograph." I don't think I was dressed like a bumblebee.
Yeah, and getting more philosophical, what do you hope happens when we die?
I think the physical form dies, but the energy or spirit or atoms, whatever you want to call it, just transmutes. It transmutes, it goes back out into the universe. It's all around us, it's out there, it's beyond what we can imagine. And it's just a dimension that we can't comprehend. So I just feel we just become part of a collective energy. And what that transmutes into, who knows? If I sort of refer to like Buddhist teachings, the whole kind of cycle of life, death and rebirth. And, as soon as we are born into this world, this body, we are born into suffering of many levels. That can be very minimal and it can be very extreme. So I think it's all just a learning experience and opportunity to grow, be the best we can be for the highest good for everything. So, yeah, that was deep. Some people I know have had sort of near-death experiences, so they've sort of, been on an operating table and they've come back from that and they've reported, the whole kind of the tunnel and the light and sort of seeing people that have passed on, like their relatives, and the feeling that it gave them and how beautiful and just loving everything was. So, and there's so many reports of that you can sort of read up on. So, but I know people who've experienced that. So, is that what actually they are experiencing as an energy? Is it just their imagination? Is it a chemical thing? Who knows? Who knows?
What's your earliest memory?
Probably my dancing. Something to do with my dancing. Maybe something to do with my sort of Scottish grandparents. We used to go there every year to visit them in the summer. And I know there's a picture of me, like 3 years old, sort of dancing on a boat somewhere. I don't know, Mullikintyre or somewhere. And there'd probably be like Scottish bagpipe music being played out through a tannoy, and I just stopped dancing to it, as you do when you're little. You don't care, do you? No inhibitions. But I guess ever since I remember, like, dancing, which is expression, creative expression of your spirit, your body.
I think I was very much the same, just a natural response to hearing any music. I seem to remember dancing in the reflection of my TV when they had the glass at the front. That's what I remember when I was younger, was looking at myself in the TV and dancing, or just moving around. So fond memories. So what is your favourite taste?
Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I do like chocolate though. Ooh. I think if somebody said you can never eat chocolate again, that would be quite hard.
Favourite smell? I
do like jasmine. There's something very exotic about it. It reminds me of warm, hot countries, holidays, like in Egypt. Had an amazing trip many years ago to Cairo there. And I remember we went and bought essential oils, and things like jasmine oil are quite expensive to buy, but if you know someone who knows where to go, And just like smelling it at In the evening, it's more heady, it's more intoxicating. I've got jasmine, it's not really growing that well. I'm trying to... I've also got a honeysuckle bush, which has become a big sort of tree. And yeah, that's gone mad.
That's
and
gorgeous,
the bees love it. And I love the smell of that as well. So yeah, fresh flowers like honeysuckle, jasmine, which are quite sweet, quite heady, and you sort of smell them more in the evening with the heat at night time. Yeah.
And following on from talking about music, do you have a favourite sound?
Favourite sound? I mean, I really like I made a singing bowl a number of years ago that I use as part of my practice and for meditation, and that was an amazing experience. And I'd always wanted a singing bowl for many years and never sort of ended up buying one. And it was almost like, this needs to be special. If I'm going to buy one, it needs to be the right one. And then I came across, I think I was on a workshop at the Clophill Centre near Bedford, and it was like a craft type workshop. We were making healing tools or something like that. And one of the ladies on the course was like, oh yeah, I've been on this course, you make it. And I was like, oh my God, you made your own singing bowl. That is why I've not found my singing bowl yet.
Yeah.
I've got to make it. And it's the whole alchemy of the creation of it. It's not just the physical aspect. It's you've got the fight, you've got the elements being involved there. It's your intent into what you put into creating it. And there's something quite meditative about it, particularly like all weekend beating out the shape of this bowl. It's a very sort of personal, to me, quite spiritual, energetic experience to do that. So, I mean, massive respect to whenever I see a large singing bowl, and I just know how much work has gone into that, and that makes sense to how much they cost. And also, I can relate it into things like with Tai Chi, where we do weapons as well. And I've been to China and I've bought my own sword out there, and I've bought it from the sword smith who was making it, just to see how they do that and the reverence for it. And it's the whole intent. And I have bought weapons where you're in a whole shop full of them, you pick one up, and it's like it speaks to your heart. You feel it, and you just know, I have to have this. This is the right one. So I've gone off on a massive tangent there, but it all really links in. So for me, a singing bowl.
Yeah. It's that appreciation if you've made something, you know the time and effort. I know colloquially it's called the Ikea Effect, because the idea being if you build something, you know the value of it. So that's really lovely that you kind of have that experience and those memories as well, and you'll appreciate that and reflect on that when you're using it, which is lovely.
At the time when I bought the sword, like proper, sort of swordsmith, metal sword, I think at the time it cost me something like 18 quid, which was nothing. Yeah. And I think even then, if you bought something similar, basic here, you probably pay sort of 40, 50 quid at that time. So it was so cheap to buy. And it actually cost me more to post it. I think it cost about 30 quid to post it. I was in Wudang Shang, which is Wudang Mountains. That's kind of the spiritual home of Tai Chi. It's like a massive national park there. But I went into the town, went to the post office. I didn't speak fluent Chinese. I had my book, my teacher did, but I didn't. I was there just trying to get this thing posted to them, I was like, okay. So I was praying to the gods, like, please get my sword back. And it took a long time to get it back. And I was really kind of like, am I going to get this sword? Where is it? And eventually I got contacted by Border Force Control, and they were basically, it was somewhere up north, Felixstowe or somewhere, and they were like, we've got this sword, we'd like to know a bit more.
A few questions for you.
And could I find the receipt for it? I'm not sure I was given one. I was just like going through all my paperwork from my trip, and I was like, well, let me send them my instructor certification and all that sort of thing. Like, I am legit, I'm not a mad woman. Apparently I was the driving force for that workshop to happen, because there were people that had done them in the past, but they didn't have anything booked when I was asking. And I was like, please, I really, whenever you're ready to do it, I want to do this workshop. And they're like, okay, well, let's just put a date out there, see what comes back. And it ended up being sort of springtime. They ended up with about 8 or 9 people doing the course. And it was like an all-day weekend, and Saturday and Sunday, and it was in a forge near the old Salisbury, like where the old, so you've got the old, I stayed right near where the old moat was and everything. And I remember sort of the first day you make it, but you have to go back the next day, and sort of it's quite rough around the edges, so it needs more work the next day. I remember that night where I was staying, I actually did a walk around the moat with my bowl, just kind of playing. And I really felt I was just honouring the art, all the kind of lineage of people who've taught it. It felt a very nice thing to do. And then at the end of the course, everyone, of course, had made one, and they were all different. And we all played our own to the group, and it was just...
It's been quite special.
What is the most used app on your phone that isn't social media?
Do you know what? I use my Samsung Notes to write musings, and it's when I do walking. I try to do at least 2 or 3 times a week, where I do sort of a 7K walk around where I live, around the fields and sort of all the lanes and stuff. So just nature, walking. It seems like it's the only time that I feel I'm free enough to... It's like you're sort of... like you're having a download, you know, and it's just stuff, it's because it's expression, but through word. And so often it might be poetic, sort of rhyming poetry, or we could call it rap, couldn't we?
We could.
It's something I think I've always done, like as a child and stuff, but then just my creative outlets are in other ways, I suppose, as an adult at the moment. And actually I found I tend to want to write maybe something rhyming or poetic when I'm trying to deal with something, I'm struggling, maybe sort of mentally, emotionally, trying to process or express feelings or something like that. And actually sometimes it's like the best stuff I've written has been when I'm having a really tough time. So Samsung Notes, there's all sorts of random stuff on there, stuff that's not even finished. I've not looked at it again, but maybe
just
one
to get
day.
It out is therapeutic in and of itself.
So I don't know, there might be some good stuff there I might put together into something at some point.
And nice to reflect on that, I can imagine, as well, to look back and think whilst you're walking, it's being in that flow state as well, isn't it? So anything that might be, you know, lying in your subconscious comes to your conscious mind, and you're able to get that out, which is
nothing
very
better than being out in a field on your own, and you just feel freedom. You just feel like I'm connected, I don't feel alone, because I feel connected, but at the same time,
there's a lot to be said for that. If you could go back in history and witness a famous moment in time, what would it be and why?
Not sure about a famous moment. I think that's quite difficult to choose, but maybe a famous or a particular era, a period of time, and a couple sort of pop up where I'm sure, you know, we've always got rose-tinted glasses on and kind of, that must have been so wonderful to live in that time. But they didn't have running water, or you know what I mean?
Especially when people think
sanitation and things like that.
I was going to say, when people think of the Victorian era, I don't think they quite think of the smell at the time as well. And, you know, the smell of London Victorian era, I'm sure. I think I would have
quite liked the 30s, sort of 20s, 30s
like
time.
Flappers.
And kind of, you know, sort of cutting their hair short.
Quite radical time.
So for a woman in this lifetime, looking back then, I think that must have been quite an interesting time for women. And I think particularly the class system in this country, I mean, you know, if you were bottom of the rung, it's a different story, I'm sure, but if you had maybe potential to earn and stuff which hadn't happened before. And another sort of era that comes to mind, somewhere like the Edo period in Japan, which was like very cultural, sort of artistic time and freedom of expression. So lots of art and paintings and poetry and music, and being in a country where the ruler was encouraging education and the arts. And there's an interesting series BBC4 have done, I think there's 3, and it's all about the ancient world and the philosophical top guys, and I think one was the Buddha, one was Confucius, and one was it Plato, I think. So I loved watching that because it was all about those eras. And I mean, the Buddha, to be alive when he was doing his teachings, that would have been awesome. a group of us went to Myanmar, and we went to some of the ancient places in Myanmar where they've got lots of Buddhist stupas, and it's like a sea of them, and it's just absolutely covered in all these sort of relics of Buddhist stupas, which you just think, God, there was a golden age of Buddhist teachings, and just to imagine living in a society where everyone was peace-loving.
Which 3 pieces of advice would you give a 20-year-old Katherine?
I think don't sweat the small stuff. I think definitely be less worried and anxious about what might or might not, the unknowns. And I think the whole kind of expressing my truth, like speaking and voicing, which maybe I would have been worried that might upset the apple cart. So I think I've probably always been someone who be anything for a quiet life rather than have an argument, whereas now I'm definitely not like that. I think I was someone who would want to please. I wouldn't say I don't want to please people, but I think I look at a bigger picture now, because sometimes, saying what somebody wants to hear in order for them to feel good is not necessarily for their good. So that's maybe something I've learned as I've got older.
Interesting. And linked to that, do you think that 20-year-old you would respect the person that you've come today?
I hope so. That's all I can say.
That's a good answer.
What one thing did you enjoy doing most as a child that you no longer do?
I'm trying to think, because I'm thinking about things I do, and I think I'm someone who does what I want to do. I'm very independent, so it means I have that luxury of being able to explore and do things I want to do. If I want to travel, I will travel. If I want to take up a new hobby, I will do it. I won't hold back. I think back to being a child. I remember watching it. My mum always watches Wimbledon every year on the telly, so I grew up with that. In sort of the 70s, it was Tracy Austin. She was like the youngest girl, 14 years old, braces, hair in bunches, and the frilly knickers and the frilly little skirt, and me up with the ball against the wall.
Did you ever play tennis at school? Were you any good?
No, I never really played it. I imagined being Tracy Austin and in my own little imaginary world, but I never took lessons. The school, I remember at high school they had tennis courts, but we hardly ever got to do that in sports lessons. I think I remember once, and I remember thinking that would probably be the one sports thing I'd actually like to do, whereas all the other stuff they were making us do I didn't really want to do, because I was never really sporty. So considering I do stuff that's just all about physical health, and I grew up with the dance, I was never into sport. I think I always thought I wasn't competitive, but it's interesting our view of what competitive is, and then if I think now what I've done and achieved,
in retrospect, yeah, interesting.
So,
well, it's never too late.
I'll give you a game of tennis sometime. That's fine. We'll go up and have a game ourselves, so you can reignite your passion for tennis.
You would need to teach me like a child, like a beginner.
This is a bit of a dark one though. What phrase or saying would you use on your headstone to best summarise your life?
Yeah, or considering your muses, you might have something that you've written that you might want to...
Oh my God.
Your line of work, I can imagine there's quite a lot of proverbs and what have you.
I mean, often little phrases I'll use will be things like onwards and upwards. That's what I always say, it's like you get through and then you just think about moving onwards, upwards, not downwards,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, so a final question for you. So from the questions we've asked you, which one would you ask us to delete and not be aired from the session?
Do you know what? No, I mean, I'm happy to be an open book, Actually, it's just quite interesting to be asked stuff that you're not normally asked in everyday life. It's like, oh, that's got me thinking, and just, sort of reflecting then on the answers, like, that's really interesting. I've not thought about that for a while, and just brought up some stuff that has been interesting to revisit.
So thank you for doing the Q&A, Katherine. Now we know a little bit more about you. Now on to the main cusp of the matter as to why you're here today, and the $1 million question, of course. What is Tai Chi?
What is Tai Chi? So Tai Chi, the term, means supreme ultimate. It's an ancient Chinese martial art, originally inspired from martial art. It's working on the principles of yin and yang. Think of that as heaven and earth opposing forces. And it's about those forces coming into harmony and working together. It's based on ancient Taoist sort of philosophy. So if we think of the principles of yin and yang, yin is classed as feminine energy and yang is classed as masculine energy, and the idea being we're made up of both of those energies, whether you're physically male or female, and it's within us but also all around us. It's within and without. It's the universe and beyond. So Tai Chi people do for health and well-being, physical and mental well-being as well. Tai Chi Chuan is fighting fist. So supreme, ultimate fighting fist. So many people teach Tai Chi just for the health benefits and for relaxation. Tai Chi Chuan is also including the martial side, which is the self-defense applications and techniques, which is what I do within my system that I teach. If I talk about the principles of Tai Chi practice as a complete art, you're looking at differentiation between yin and yang. So this could be about full and empty, contraction, expansion, internal, external. They're all opposites of each other, but it's about both and about both of those working in harmony. And if you think of your breath, it's constantly moving in or out. Also, it's about the connection of the whole body working as one. So if you look at martial arts often in other styles, other disciplines, there might be blocks, there might be, trying to stop an opponent. In Tai Chi, it's more deflection. And so you're not stopping their force. You're trying to harness their force and use it against them. So it's like you're using minimum effort for maximum result. So as a self-defense, it's great because you're not relying on particular muscular power, strength. Because, if you're a boxer and you're punching, it's all about a lot of it, as well as footwork. Obviously, it's strength in your arms and reactions and stuff. But with Tai Chi, it's about, yes, footwork, getting out of the way of that force that's coming at us, but then deflecting it, adding a bit of force to it, redirecting that force, using that force against that person for a maximum result. So you could have quite a small little lady up against quite a big, strong guy, and if he's got no good Tai Chi techniques, you could easily probably unbalance him. So we have things like warm-up stretches. We have Qigong, which is like health exercises, Chinese health exercises, which is your movement and your breathing. So nice, slow-flowing movement, which is quite nice as either warm-up stretches, or some people teach that completely as a separate thing for health. Then we have pushing hands called Toishu. Toishu pushing hands exercises are partner exercises. So this is where you work with a partner and you're doing either fixed step where you don't move your feet and it's all the rest of the body, or you're doing sort of stepping drills as well. And you're learning timing, distance, deflection, balance. There's so much going on there. And then you have the self-defense side, which we call Sanshao, which is the martial applications. And these come from the Tai Chi Hand Form. So the hand form is what most people think of as Tai Chi. And that is the slow, graceful, flowing movements. And it looks like a sequence. You could almost say it looks like a dance, So that's just one aspect of Tai Chi. Now, some people, that's all they do. They will benefit from it, but for me, I think teaching a system that is a complete system, it's about getting as true as you can to the origins of the art, of how it was intentionally taught. And, there's Nigong, which is like internal strength training. That's a whole separate thing that not everyone goes on to do because it requires more commitment. It's something that other martial artists would be interested in if they're doing contact sort of competition, because it's a bit like Shaolin monks with their kind of iron fist training.
Right.
It's very, I don't do Nigong or teach Nigong for people to go and do contact fighting. We do it for health and physical and energetically, just amazing, powerful exercises, but they require discipline and they require daily practice. So it just depends on what level somebody wants to apply themselves to the practice, but it's something that you never stop learning from it. The more you learn, the more there is to know. And what drew me to it in the first place was it was something mysterious, Eastern, Asian, mystical. There was something kind of, it's not just all out there for you to see. You have to discover, like no one can just tell you this is what it is and that's what it will be like for you. So that, and I think as well the graceful movement was kind of like, the dancer in me, years of dancing, was just like, that looks like I'm going to really, A, love it, B, probably be quite good at it.
Well, it's that bodily awareness, isn't it? If you've already got that ingrained in your body already, and that kind of...
And I think in the beginning, I had no idea it was a martial art. It was before the internet, and, just somebody had a poster near where I worked. I was in London at the time, and I went along thinking, I'll be able to do this. I've got my dancer background. But actually doing it was just forms we were doing when I first started learning. Different teacher to what I ended up with in the end. But it was kind of like, I came away going, oh my God, I feel so great. And I was in a job that was really stressful, particularly on a Monday, because it was all about figures, targets, etc., reporting, blah, 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 blah. Pressure. So to go on a Monday night after that and then come away and just go, oh my God, I feel so much better. So straight away I was like, okay, so there's more to this. This is kind of really benefiting me sort of mentally, which was something I hadn't really thought about consciously.
Again, getting into that flow state and that kind of meditative aspect to it is great for your mental health. I mean,
back then in 2000, it was kind of like nobody was really talking about meditation.
It wasn't, and mental health I don't think was as much of a hot topic, and people weren't really thinking about how they look after their mental health as we do with our physical health, whereas that's much more of a talked about topic these days.
I think even the term stress was probably only starting to come on the radar.
How long did it take you before you decided, I want to share what I've learned and share this gift to other people?
It was where I worked. So when I left work, I left the class. So that was a couple of years. And then I think I'd moved somewhere and within the London area, and I found somewhere else. They were teaching the same style, because Tai Chi has different styles, like, say, yoga does, different branches, different lineages.
Imagine, Same, again, similar to dancing as well. You know, a foundation, but there's all these different
exactly. Yeah, so found another teacher. It was the same style, but, each time they're teaching it their way. So I just went along as a student, and then I think a year or so later, I had moved again, found another school, and that was a school that had lots of schools dotted all over London, and they were quite established, and they were offering also assistant teacher sort of training, support and retreats as well. So a lot more going on with them, and that was when I first started sort of doing some martial side to it with them. They were still Yang style. I think we did the sabre weapon with them as well. And then I moved out of London in 2010, and it was my full-time job at the time, sort of eventually getting made redundant from that. And then I was like, okay, I was in sort of this area, the Chilterns area, and it was like, right, maybe I need to, now I've got a free time, let's just look up what's available, and found someone local teaching the Wudang style Tai Chi. So just started going along to that as a student. Very sort of lots of focus on the martial side as well as everything else, and it was well out of my comfort zone. But actually, it's probably what I needed.
It's a healthy place to be.
Yeah, and I think if you told me sort of 10 years before, Tai Chi is a martial art, you'll be doing self-defense, I'd be like, I don't want a self-defense class, and it probably would have scared me off. So I think everything at the right time, And I think it was the right person teaching me at that time to bring that aspect out. So it gave me an inner confidence. And I think, being sort of independent single woman at the time, it was probably very good to be doing something like that. And and then I sort of would maybe do a bit of assisting or teaching. The guy who was teaching me was toing and froing between here and Thailand, so he wasn't here all the time. And so I went to his teacher, and so he became my sifu. And this was Dan Doherty, who was kind of very well known in his domain in the UK and in Europe and around the world. So him as a teacher for me, he was not someone I would have gone to. But when I met him, he was already suffering with Parkinson's quite badly, but he was teaching and running workshops and stuff. And then I started to do Tai Chi competitions where you can enter forms or weapon forms, and they do pushing hands as well. So I really focused on hand forms and weapon forms, sort of doing those for medals, as you do.
Wow, that competitive side coming out there.
Yeah. I never thought I would be doing, I wouldn't have imagined it. So, and actually it took me to Russia. We went to St. Petersburg and did the Europeans there in 2016. We used to do the British Championships every year in Oxford. And now, these days, I'm a adjudicator for the London competition. So that happens every year. So being made redundant, and then sort of the experiences I've had from dance teacher training, assistant teacher, instructor training with the Tai Chi, just everything just eventually got to that point where it's like, well, the universe has created this void in your work, and that just kind of and then the guy who taught locally, he left and moved abroad, and I took over the classes. I was doing a bit of assisting for retreats at the Buddhist monastery at Amaravati.
I know.
So gaining experience there with that, and just things just grew.
Quite
got approached
organically.
by the Bagnall Centre, came and taught here for a few years when Joanne was here. So
Do you notice now that there are different aspects and little bits and pieces of your previous teachers that you can pinpoint as that was that person and that was that person, and bits that you've taken forward into your own teaching style?
Yeah, definitely. Homage to Derek, who was Yang style, who's still out there teaching, I think. So thank you to Derek. And Dan, who's no longer with us, he sadly passed away December last year. So it was a massive loss to our Tai Chi community, and he was a force to be reckoned with. And he always used to say, I'll die in my boots doing it. And I think he pretty much did. And I'm just indebted with gratitude to what he gave me.
It's like you said earlier with your pizza, you've taken all your favourite bits or your best toppings of the various Tai Chi teachers you've worked with, and you've put it all together on one delicious pizza.
Tai Chi pizza.
I'm thinking now a yin yang symbol.
Yeah.
On the pizza.
It's all coming round circles.
I've seen a video online, and every time it comes up on my memories on social media, I post it because it's a yin yang symbol made out of soup. So it's a white and a green, and because I'm Tai Chi in the Chilterns, my symbol for my business is, rather than black and white yin and yang, it's a green and white yin and yang.
Lovely. And again, that encapsulates with the nature as well, the nature aspect. That's wonderful. And do you feel it's still quite a thriving practice? You said also doing some adjudicating. Do you see that there's still kind of young blood coming through? Is it something that's quite popular, or what's that?
It's interesting because we are an ageing society, and Tai Chi has been proven through health research, and particularly to mention something like the Harvard University, they've even got their own book on Tai Chi. There's a lot of research now proving that the benefits, particularly as you get older, for your body, it's something as an activity that can really help improve balance. It can help strengthen your muscles, your tendons, your joints, create more flexibility. And it's all done in a way that is not forced. Everything is soft, flowing, relaxed, slow. You do it at a level that suits your body, so people are less likely to hurt themselves doing that activity. And of course, a lot of issues now with older people with walking, falling,
Slips,
balance.
Trips and falls, they're dangerous.
Yes, so I know people who are doing lessons focused on that. It's like, I've got students teaching now for Sport in Mind charity. So that's very much about the mental health aspect.
So we've got some yoga sessions here that are funded as well by
Yes.
Sport in Mind. And
Yes.
on the dancing side of it as well, there's lots of research for older adults and dancing, especially ballet.
Yes.
And I think it being
Yes, I've seen that.
attainable for older adults, where they're coming into something where it's not, we're not going to have you jumping around and doing lots of turns, but there are classes that can be suited for people,
adapting
for instance,
it.
with Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or physical, mental.
And I mean, like chair Tai Chi, chair yoga, stuff like that. I've done in care homes, and I've got one of my students now starting that up in Aylesbury with a care home there. Children, I've worked with children in schools at events as well, and making that more fun, and you can make it more kind of animated, and there's lots of reference to animals in Tai Chi.
Brilliant.
So things like the white crane, the tiger, you can really sort of bring that to life for children. I think my dance teaching background, which was mostly children, I can really bring that ability in, whereas Tai Chi tends to be adult based.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get sometimes to my style of Tai Chi, people who've done martial arts when they were younger,
and
they get older and they're kind of like, I can't do that anymore. My joints are suffering. I've got problems with, X, Y, Z from doing that for years. So they come to Tai Chi because it still gives them a martial art, but it's actually beneficial and can improve things for them. So.
Well, I know after speaking to you today, Katherine, I certainly want to give Tai Chi a go.
Oh, you would be most welcome.
If anyone does want to attend the class or wants to contact you to find out further information, where should they go? Do you have any social media channels or contact details that they can get hold of you on?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page, which is Tai Chi in the Chilterns. If you just search for that, you'll get the homepage of my Facebook page for that. I've got an Instagram, Chiltern Chi, but I apologise, I've been a bit neglectful of it. So you can email me if people have got want to make an inquiry. They can email directly Katherine, and my email address is taichiinthechilterns@gmail.com, and that's all lowercase. And classes-wise, I mean, here at the Bagnall Project, we've got Mondays, 12 to 1. Beginners are welcome. It's a drop-in. A lot of my other classes aren't drop-in, whereas here, because it's sort of funded, it's a different sort of setup. So it makes it easier for people to come in and try the class. And I think in general, if people want to get the benefits of it, they have to rather than just think, I can just drop in and out when I feel like it. It's hard to learn the Tai Chi form and the art really by just dropping in and out every so often. You've got to really commit to a weekly session to benefit and learn. So, but I support students with online videos. I have Zoom classes as well as extras. Like some students do more than one lesson a week. I do workshops every so often. So for those who've got a foundation of training with me, after a while they might want to consider doing a 3-hour workshop where we learn the Tai Chi weapons. So we start with spear and we do forms and applications, which is really good fun. Then we move on to sabre, which is a broadsword. So again, forms, applications. And then the most difficult weapon to learn would be the Tai Chi straight sword. And that again would be forms and applications. And
so what you're saying, Katherine, is if I sign up to your class, I get to play with your swords.
I can bring it in for show and tell one day if people are interested.
I think that's a draw, if anything.
So it's also really good for you as a social prescriber, Zoe, isn't it? You can refer people into Tai Chi if anyone comes to you via our website.
Definitely.
Now, you've actually got a class in a minute, haven't you, Katherine? So you've been very generous with your time today, so we'll let you go because I know you've got to go and prep for your class downstairs. And we didn't even get around to doing your 3 for Freedom, so we'll definitely have to get you back on another time because I know the people listening will want to hear what your selections were. So thank you for your time today, Katherine.
You're welcome.
Before we go, have you got any final thoughts today, Zoe?
Well, I think it's just been really great for me to learn a little bit more about it. Obviously, in my role as a social prescriber, I think it's something that's good for, physical and mental health. And also the gentle aspect, I think, is really beneficial for, as we said, people that might find leaping around bit too much for them. So it's been really interesting, and it's a much broader topic than I had anticipated. So it's been really interesting to find out about all those different aspects as well. So yeah, thank you again.
You're welcome.
And as I said, we'll definitely have to get you back to do a follow-up show next time with your 3 for Freedom selections. So I know you put some serious consideration into that one, and I wouldn't want it to go to waste.
Sure,
Come
why
visit us
not?
again.
If you'll have me.
Hopefully not as scary as you were anticipating.
No, not at all. No, I think once, as you can tell, once I start talking,
Get going.
hopefully that's been interesting for some people out there, and maybe inspired some to come and join in.
Well, as I said, I shall definitely be coming and joining in next time, and thank you once again, Katherine, for giving us your time today.
You're welcome. Shay Shay, as they say in China.
The Let's Be Frank podcast is brought to you by the Oasis Partnership, a charity providing high-quality social and psychological support services to improve people's mental health and well-being. We deliver socially inclusive, open-access support for the wider communities of Buckinghamshire through pioneering and innovative partnerships and initiatives. Oasis provides free and subsidised health and wellbeing classes and support groups for the Chiltern area, including mindfulness, yoga, Tai Chi, Reiki, fitness, boxing, art and music. Oasis also helps support people to reach their full potential through our substance misuse treatment service, Routes to Work and outreach service. The Oasis Substance Misuse Treatment Service is provided in partnership with Inclusion, part of Midlands Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, delivering 1 recovery bucks. The Let's Be Frank podcast was launched in tribute to the memory of long-term Oasis patron and world-renowned cinematographer Frank Hodge, and is recorded in the Frank Hodge Podcast Studio, our new community podcasting facility launched in his honour.